Hello friends, so today I'm going to show you how to get to your first 1,000 followers on social media, and we're doing it properly. No bots, no follow for follow nonsense, and absolutely no f***ing dancing. And stay with me because at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to put together a whole month's worth of social media content in just a few hours. It's going to save you a ton of time. Now I'm breaking this video down into 8 super practical recommendations that we've tested with a whole host of companies and individuals that we work with. For each of these, you can use them on any social media platform. You can use them with any topic or subject area that you focus on, and none of this is going to cost you any money. None of these are going to be expensive tools that you need to spend a bunch of money on. And for each of these, I'm also going to give you some really practical recommendations for how to put them into practice. Now, let's start out with our first one here, and that is that I want you to pick one platform. And when I say platform, I mean social media platform, okay? Now, as you probably know, there are tons of social media networks out there, but there are tools like Buffer and Social Pilot where you can create your social media content once and then it will post it to all of these different social media platforms, right? And there can be a temptation to think, well, for me to build an audience, I need to get to everybody out there, so posting in all the places probably makes the most sense. Well, don't do that, and let me explain why. Typically, when you start out with, you don't have a huge amount of content to post. So you tend to post the same stuff to all of these different social media platforms. And one, that sucks for your audience because they're seeing the same things repeated over and over again. 2, they're most likely to only follow you in one of those social media networks. And 3, as we'll get to later on in this video, replying and engaging with the audience is going to be a fundamental tactic. But if you post into like 10 different social media networks, you're probably not going to see where a lot of your audience are replying, and then you won't go and reply, and it kind of sucks for them, okay? So what I want you to do is to pick one platform where your audience are most likely hanging out. So if you're focusing on a business audience, you might want to post to LinkedIn. If you're focusing on a gaming audience, maybe it's going to be Facebook or X, right? Now, if you're not sure which platform to choose, then go down to the comments, ask in the comments, and I'll try and reply. I try to reply to every comment people post on my channel, all right? So go do that, and then we'll focus on that. Now, I want to give you an example of a company who does this really well. This is Olama. While they're a company, this also works for an individual. They've spent a lot of time and focus on X, right? And there's 2 things that they've done here that are really important to know. The first thing is that they've made their profile look good, right? They've got their whole brand kind of look and feel here with this cute little llama. But the second thing is they post regularly. Like this was 22 hours ago, this was 22 hours ago, this was a couple of days ago, right? They're posting a regular stream of content. And as you can see here, they're following 7 people, but they've got 82,000 people following them. So what they're doing is working because they've focused their efforts in one place. Quality over quantity is absolutely everything. Now, if you're new around here, my name is Jono, and I've helped hundreds of companies and thousands of individuals build thriving audiences, fans, and communities with less hassle and better results. It's great to have you here. I hope you find this video useful and stick around. So let's get on to our second recommendation here. Now, the second thing here is to define your niche. Now, what is a niche? A niche is basically a specialism. It's where you really dig deep into a very specific topic as opposed to being very general. And this is important for a few reasons. One is that there's a misconception out there that if you want to attract 100 million people, therefore you've got to post things that will be of interest to 100 million people. So we should go broad, go as broad as possible in what we're talking about. But the problem is that the broader the topics you talk about to attract as many people, frankly, the more boring your content's going to become, right? And what's interesting is that time and time again, the more specialist your content is, the more you focus on what your audience really cares about, the faster your audience grows. We see this across social media and YouTube and other places. But also, I want to take a moment to talk about what kind of followers we care about, because I'm guessing one of the reasons why you clicked on this video is because for you, 1,000 followers has some kind of significance to you. Like, oh, I need 1,000 followers to seem credible, or I'm embarrassed because I've only got 10 followers and I want to change that. Well, in reality, the number of followers really doesn't matter, right? What matters more is the quality of the followers. If you've got 100 followers that really love what you're doing and what you're posting about, that's way more valuable than having 100,000 followers where most of them are bots or they don't read anything that you put out there, right? So this is another reason why we should double down on the niche, right? Is to focus on what your audience really cares about. Then you're going to build an audience that's really interested in that, right? So for example, if you're a fitness coach, right? Don't just post generic workout tips. Be the fitness coach for busy people, or be the fitness coach for tech workers who sit all day, or be the fitness coach for parents, right? Get specific, and then your audience is going to grow a lot more quickly, all right? Now, let me give you an example of how I do this. And this is my LinkedIn profile. Let me scroll back up to the top. So, this is an example of some of the content that is a little bit more niche orientated. My audience is, businesses and individuals who want to build audiences, they want to build fans, they want to build communities, right? So this is about the risk of AI being used to pretend to be human and how it can actually really erode trust, right? This is a YouTube video. This one is about the importance of focusing on building a great onboarding experience before you build growth in a business, because a lot of people I work with are building businesses. This is about how badge scans at conferences are garbage, because most businesses are going to conferences, right? This is a little joke with my friend Ted. This is about the power of being able to post content and wisdom to social media and blogging, whatever else. So this is all focused on my target audience. I'm not posting generic stuff. This is all definitely focused on what my audience is interested in, what they care about. And this really kind of neatly leads us to our third recommendation here. And this is that it's absolutely essential that you create value, right? Now, this might seem blindingly obvious, right? Because, yeah, of course, we should always create value for our audience. But the problem here is that people misunderstand what value really means on social media. There is kind of an assumption here that value is like useful stuff that adults like, things that relate to our jobs and our careers and saving responsibly. That is not what value means in its entirety. There's basically kind of 3 buckets of value, if you will, right? The first one is, that stuff. It's educational, right? It's the stuff that's kind of relevant and of interest to your audience, and you're going to teach them something useful that will help them in their world, right? But the other type of value here is entertainment, right? People like to be entertained. There's a reason why people watch Netflix and listen to music and go to concerts and go to plays and whatever else. They like to be entertained. And, when you can kind of combine education and entertainment, then things get really interesting. But then the other thing as well is you also want to focus on content that's engaging, right? Where you interact with your audience. It's asking questions, it's sparking conversations. So teach them, make them laugh, surprise them, entertain them, and engage with them in different ways. And you want your content to be a mixture of all of these different types of things. So, instead of just zoning on purely useful stuff, try and mix it up a notch. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, but how do I organize creating valuable content? Well, this is where I'd recommend you create something like a content calendar. This is an example of a template that we provide to our customers in the Community Leadership Core. You can go create your own one if you want. We just do it in Google Sheets. You can go and buy platforms that do it, but I'd honestly recommend that you create your own. The way in which we recommend you do this, and I'm going to give you a quick overview now, and we'll talk about this more later on, where we create that whole month's worth of social media content that you can put out there in just a few hours, that you can create in just a few hours. But you basically, first of all, create what we call buckets. Buckets are different types of content that you might want to put out there. So, in this example, we're pretending we've got a fake webinar platform called Baconar. And one type of content is new releases. Another could be tutorials of how to use it. Another one could be showcasing, users and customers getting value. Another one could be little chunks of wisdom. But you could also have in here fun stuff. It could be memes. Mix up the different types of value that we talked about over here and put them down, put them in your social media calendar as buckets. And then all you do is go and add rows and pick a bucket. Like I added 3 rows for tutorials, and then just go and think, okay, well, what are the tutorials I want to think about? Oh, it could be spinning up new events, Google Calendar integration, whatever it might be, okay? The key thing here is that we want to think proactively about a diverse set of content that is going to be valuable to our audience. That's really, really important. Now, again, don't worry too much about this. I'm going to go through, later in the video, I'm going to walk through exactly how to do this. It's a super powerful way of saving yourself a ton of time in how you plan out your content. Now, by the way, I'm hoping you're finding this video useful. My goal with these videos is to just share stuff that I think will be helpful and useful to people. If you like this, I would love if you could throw a like on this video. My channel is a small channel, right? And it's kind of hard to get videos visibility, right? And the only way to really get the algorithm to recommend videos is if people like videos, if they comment and reply to them, right? So definitely engage with the comments. And also, if you were to throw a sub on this channel, if you were to subscribe, well, that would just mean the world to me as well. So if you found this stuff helpful, definitely go like and subscribe. All right, let's now move on to our 4th recommendation here. And this is where, this again is kind of building on what we've already talked about here. And this is where you want to post consistently. Now, this is super important, right? Let me talk about how online platforms work. It's a little bit like the stock market, right? So if you invest in the stock market, let's say you put $100 into the stock market in year one. If the stock market performs well, then you probably make about 7% back. So now you got $107. And then with year two, you get 7% of $107. So it compounds and it compounds and compounds. And what happens is you ideally get this kind of thing happening where, you make more and more money because you've got a bigger pot of money in there that's kind of been invested into the stock market. The same thing happens with social media networks and with YouTube and with any kind of online content, is that if you only post one bit of content a week, it's kind of like investing $1 in the stock market. Sure, you'll grow, but you'll grow really, really slowly. But if you post a whole bunch of content on social media every week, then not only do people get to see your new stuff, so you get more bites of the cherry for people to see it, but also your older posts also go and get visibility because people will go and check it out. The algorithm will pick up on it. They'll go and check out your older material if they think that you're interesting. This especially works well on platforms like on blogs as well as YouTube as well. Okay, so I know we're talking about social media here today, but the same thing happens to YouTube and to blogging as well. So the reason why I'm saying this is you want to make sure that you're posting regularly. Ideally, this should be 3 to 5 times a week. Okay? Make sure this is really clear. 3 to 5 times a week. Now, you might think, well, that's, again, kind of a lot. But remember, we're going to go back to this a little bit later on how you can create a whole month's worth of content in just a couple of hours. Okay? So definitely make sure that you're posting regularly. It's going to give you more of a bite of the cherry in terms of building growth. So now let's move on to our 5th one here. All right. Actually, you know what? I want to give you an example of this in action. Let me spin over to my other screen here. And this is Sam. So Sam runs a company. They're one of our customers in the Community Leadership Core. We love working with him and his colleague, Chris Guest, who does marketing there as well. Sam focuses on something called event modeling. You don't have to care about what that is if you're not into engineering. But look, this is Sam's personal profile. I want you to see the diversity of the content that is gone here. So this is a workshop that he's doing next week. This is where he's posting little videos where he talks about, like, this is the future is model driven. This is another video where he's talking about event modeling. This is where, again, it's talking about modeling as the new coding, little picture of him kind of looking pensive. Another car video of him driving. This is him and Chris talking together. This is like a screencast where he's walking through event modeling. So there's a real diversity of content here, like this is a little bit of fun. Again, like his channel is not just posting one type of value, it's mixing it up and is posting consistently, right? He's posting once every 2 or 3 days as he's going through this, right? So again, if we look at what we've got here, pick one platform, get super clear on what your niche is, create different types of value, and then post regularly, all right? All right, let's now move on to number 5, right? Let me just move my notes down. And this is where you want to engage like a human. So there is one key way in which social media, blogs, YouTube, any online content is massively misused, is that some people think of it as like a monologue, that you kind of get out there and you broadcast your wisdom to the world, right? And you don't really pay attention to how people reply to that or engage with that. You basically post and ghost, right? Don't do that, right? It's the wrong thing to do because people really like to engage in a conversation. Okay? So let's say you go and post a bit of content on X. If somebody goes and replies to you, engage with them. If somebody reshares your post, engage with them. If somebody mentions your username in a post, engage with them, right? The key thing here is the more we engage with other human beings and engage with our audience, a couple of things happen. One is it makes your audience feel seen. It makes them feel heard. It makes them feel noticed. And that's going to build the level of trust between you and your audience. But secondly, it triggers the algorithm. The more people engage with your content, the more they reply, the more you reply and engage with them, The algorithm sees that, they see activity, they see positivity, and then they recommend your social media post to more people, and then your follow account grows, okay? So there's a couple of things you want to do here. You want to make sure that every single time anyone replies to you, you reply back to them, right? You post a new release of a product that you're releasing, and someone says, hey, this is really cool. Then you say, oh, thanks very much. I really appreciate that, you know? But then what you do is you continue the conversation, right? Hey, thank you for your kind words about our new release. What about it do you find particularly useful, right? Every single time anyone posts a reply, you want to make sure you like it, right? So the point here is we're keeping the conversation going by replying, asking them questions, and liking what they're posting, okay? This is going to keep people engaged with you more and more and more and more. It triggers the algorithm, but more importantly, it just delivers a really good experience for them, right? So reply, continue, and like. Those are the three fundamental things. And look, it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of get into the habit of doing this, right? But the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature. Now, the other thing you're going to want to do here as well is what I call play with the big fish, okay? And what I mean by this is you want to go out there and find, let's say, followers who've got social media accounts on the platform that you've chosen that have got between 1,500 and 5,000 followers, and people who are in your niche, right? So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's say you're posting about photography, right? And I just went and found this guy, Joseph Giscaloni, who does photography. He's got 5,500 followers, so it's exactly kind of where we want to be. What I'd recommend you do is go and find a whole bunch of these folks who are in your niche, follow them, and then just regularly interact and engage with their content. Like, you know, this one here, like he posted this thing a couple of hours ago that is pinned. You know, go in here and reply to it and say, hey, that's a really beautiful picture. Could you share a little, you know, what kind of lens did you use in it, right? Look at this one. I mean, he seems to be primarily posting his pictures. Like, let's say this one. You could say, I love that. I love the framing of that flower. You know, what kind of flower is that? You know, you're just regularly engaging with this person. And when you do this, when you put together, let's say, you know, what I would recommend is you maybe find 10 to 20 of these folks and you reply with them and you engage with them regularly. What happens is they're going to get to know you. They're going to start reposting some of your content. You're building trust with them. And again, it triggers the algorithm. The algorithm is going to recommend you to more people, and then your follower count is going to grow. It's a very, very natural way of doing it. But make sure that when you engage with them, you do it in a really thoughtful way. The last thing you want to do to Joseph is to just automate this and use bots and whatever else. That sucks. No, go and actually have a conversation. And through this process, you're probably going to learn a little bit as well. By the way, before we go on, if you want to build an awesome audience or fans or a community around what you're doing, you should absolutely check out our community leadership call. We're kind of like a personal trainer for companies who want to build audiences, fans, and engagement. We help you to figure out, you know, what work will have the biggest impact. We'll watch your work, we'll provide feedback on the tactical execution, and then we check in regularly to make sure that things are always moving forward and you're making regular progress and momentum. If you want to find out more about the community leadership core, check out the link down there in the video description. All right, so now let's move on to our next one here. And this one is going to be to focus on trends. So the one thing that is undeniable about building any kind of online audience is that people respond really well to trends. Like if something's happening right now and it's popular and it's interesting, just by participating in and feeding into that conversation, you increase the likelihood of being seen because people are looking for that online, right? So, you know, when we look at, if I go back to, I'm going to go back to Joseph's kind of profile here, you can see here that these are some live sessions that are going on. If we go to explore, right, we can see these are the popular things that are happening on X. This gives you just a good sense of kind of what's trending right now. And these are good areas where when they're relevant to your niche, to kind of focus in on and engage, okay? So what you're gonna wanna do is to identify what are the trends that are relevant to you on a week-to-week basis, and then interact, engage, and share the different types of value that we're talking about here. Post stuff that's educational or entertaining that relates to these trends. Now, You might be thinking, okay, well, where do we go outside of just looking what's popular on X or LinkedIn or whatever for these trends? Another great way to focus on this is to look at something like Google Trends. So if you go to trends.google.com, let's say you work in the AI space. I just added in here some of these AI tools, ChatGPT, Llama, Claude, and Grok, and then I set this to a 12-month period of time. And it gives me a whole bunch of useful information that I can use in social media. The first thing is that ChatGPT is continuing to grow. With all of the talk of AI recently, you could be led to believe that ChatGPT is becoming less relevant because everyone's talking about these other tools, but in reality, ChatGPT is way more popular than any of these other tools. So posting stuff, if my niche is AI or technology, posting about ChatGPT is still very much an area that I should focus on. But also look down here. You see this green line? This is Grok. Look how Grok has just kind of poked up here a little bit, right? That tells me that Grok is something that is a very recent interest, and therefore I should start talking about Grok on my social media, on my social media profile, again, if that's the niche that I'm operating in. So go to trends.google.com, go and add in the things that are relevant to you, and then this can be an amazing way in which you can start creating content that can grow. All right, so now let's move on to our last one, right? And this is to make sure that you have regular calls to action. Now, what is a call to action? A call to action is when you have one piece of content that you're talking through, that you then promote another piece of content or another resource, or it could even be a product in some cases, that you point people towards. Now, I'm going to give you an example of this because I'm going to do this as we bring this video to a close, right? But calls to action can exist in many different places. When people do webinars and online workshops, it can be, providing a free download or a resource or a free subscription or something for free there. When you, let me give you an example of something that popped up in my social earlier. 1 second. Another example is this. Do you remember earlier on when we talked about my LinkedIn profile? I was sharing about this YouTube video about being human. Well, the call to action is for someone to click on the link, right, to go to get the video. But the problem with social media platforms is that they want to keep you on those platforms as long as possible, right? So, if you provide a link to a YouTube video or you provide a link to your website and you take people off the platform, generally the social media platforms don't want to recommend stuff that's got those kinds of links, right? Because they want to keep you on the platform, right? They want to keep you uploading video to their platform instead of uploading it on YouTube, for example. So what you want to do when you are going to link to things off platform, like in this case with LinkedIn, is put the link in the first comment, right? So you can see here, I talk about the new video that I put out, and then I provide the link to the video in the first comment, right? This doesn't mitigate the fact that, LinkedIn will probably recommend content with links to other platforms less. The algorithm is always going to bias against linking to anyone off the platform, but it will significantly reduce the negative impact of that, okay? So, those are the kind of things that we talk about when it comes to call to actions. But I'm going to give you an example of a call to action right now, because at the beginning of this video, I said that I'm going to show you how to put together a whole month's worth of social media content in just a couple of hours, right? And to do this really effectively, I want to point you to this video, because in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. It will take only a few hours. It's a very specific way of working using the buckets and the system that I kind of outlined earlier on. But if you go and check out this video, I'll show you how to take all of these different things we learned here and to put them into practice with a month's worth of social media content in just a few hours. I think you'll find it useful. Go check that out, and I'll see you there.